Hi everyone. Today is Tuesday, January the 25th, 2021. And today I want to review this book that's, I think, long overdue for me to review. It's been something I've been wanting to talk about and share for quite a while. But this is one of those books that I think you need to go back and read again and again and refer back and perhaps practice the book before you can talk about it exactly. So, for example, like Dr. Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, how I kind of practiced one rule per month for the entire year of 2019, and didn't say anything about it until I finished practicing the rules. This book, which is called Thou Shalt Prosper, 10 Commandments for Making Money, by Dr. Rabbi, by, not Dr. by Rabbi Daniel Lapin. These 10 commandments, I think I would be able to do a much better thought sharing review, whatever you want to call this, if I, in fact, go ahead and practice these 10 and then talk about them, because I think they'll become far more embodied. And this is that sort of a book. Nevertheless, this is a fantastic book. It, in some ways, not in too many ways, because perhaps you could say I already have a sort of a prosperity mindset. But in some ways, it made me, it challenged my thinking and then made me go, oh yeah, that's, that makes sense. Like, it's duh. Why didn't I think of that? And and so in those ways, I think practicing it and then making a more maybe in-depth thoughts and review about this would be best. Nevertheless, I read this book, I think, in October or November of this year. And the reason I read it was I was actually looking for something Jewish to read. Yeah, I mean, go figure, right? I had just, at the time, I had just finished listening to a book called God's Bankers, which is about the Vatican Bank. And I'm already Catholic, so that book about the Vatican Bank, it helped me to really understand some things that I never quite got as a kid. That I always I really liked Pope, I think it was John Paul II, right? I couldn't understand why anybody would want to assassinate him. He's such a nice guy. I saw him actually when I lived in Bombay as a child, and he had come over there, and I was like, oh, I love this Pope. He's amazing. And I'd like to think of myself as probably a devout Catholic. I don't know if I'm devout, but like, and I'm ritualistic too. But anyways, I'm on a tangent. Point being, after listening to God's Bankers and listening to sort of the Italian fascist Mussolini view on, how the whole pitch about like their support or lack thereof of the Jewish victims of the Holocaust, how they pitched it. I was like, no, you know what? I need to hear this from the Jewish side. And so I just went looking for like Jewish views, basically. I know that sounds very absurd and weird, but whatever. That's kind of how I do things. I just like, go on a little hunt. And then I happened to find a YouTube video by a channel called, I think they call it Money Advantage, And it was an interview between this couple. I don't know if they're a couple, but male and female, and they were talking to a rabbi, Daniel Lapin, and he was basically talking about his book, Thou Shalt Prosper. And I listened to what he had to say in that interview, and I will post the link to that interview in the description or in a pinned comment or something. And I thought, hey, this is cool. Yeah, you know what? I want to hear this, because he didn't just like talk about what makes people prosperous, specifically what makes people in his community prosperous, but also sort of some generational, cultural sort of things, and biblical things, which I've always been fascinated by Judaism, because I feel like, and this only comes up, sometimes, because I feel like in the editing of making things Catholic, I think they mucked up a little bit, and they omitted, like when I say they, I mean my people, my the Catholic Church people. Uh, they edited out some very important things that somehow the Jewish books still have, and so when I go back to like Jewish versions of things, or sometimes I'll go and I'll speak with priests and say, this doesn't make sense, and then they'll tell me what the words were in the Greek language, and what things were actually about, and then I'm like, okay, now that makes sense. Why do they only tell this to like the proper priests, like why don't lay people know this? Anyways, very long preamble to this terrific book, but that's why I kind of I began to listen to this book, Thou Shalt Prosper. And okay, I'm going to go through his 10 commandments, okay? And I'll just go through each one very briefly, or rather my notes on each one. So the first commandment is believe in the dignity and morality of business. And I thought, maybe I took it for granted, but in listening to what he had to say about how, personal example too, when I left the tech industry, and I went back to work for my alma mater as an operations director, and I took a huge pay cut from tech to work in university setting. But I remember, like at my interview, and I was saying, oh yeah, I wanted to give back to my alma mater, and I'm sure if Rabbi Lapin listens to this, he'll be like, and yeah, totally. Like it called me on that, because he says, well, like, what were you doing in business? Were you like stealing in business? No, you were still giving back, weren't you, with your work? And okay, I get that, and this is another thing he highlights in the book, the narrative that, those evil business people. And that's not true, actually, because when you are doing business, and okay, yeah, go ahead and like hate me in the comments for this, but oh, why is Amazon blah blah blah, and yeah, like you're killing the small business, and it's not. Agreed. But if they weren't providing some sort of value, you wouldn't be buying their shit now, would you? So I know it's not a perfect world, but that view of, and then okay, there's a deeper reason to that. Okay, why believe in the dignity and morality of business? Because if you don't believe in the morality of what you're doing, are you actually going to even value your energy and the work that you put in, and therefore the money that you earn from said work? And that really made me think about, maybe that's why, like, so many like super wealthy people who they make a lot of money, but they have like so many vices that just like piss away that money. And and I maybe that I think maybe they think poorly of themselves, or like they don't deserve that wealth or whatever, or like it's gotten in an immoral way or something. And and maybe if we all began to like believe in the dignity and morality of the work we do, maybe people like in the CDC and FDA would think twice before being cool about shitty data. Maybe they would actually want to have integrity, because they would have to, right? Because they would actually believe in the dignity and the morality of what it is they're trying to do. And they wouldn't be so like shut off to questions about or concerns, etc. They would just be like, okay, you know what, wait, we want to do the right thing, let's look into this. And that is the right thing to do, and that's the right way to make profit, so to speak. Some very interesting things he brought up were the spiritual versus the material, and how sort of the aspect of making money is much more spiritual. And he means that, and it's like I totally got it at an intuitive level. I don't know if I'll be able to explain it properly in words, but I completely got it in that, yeah, in a way I can't express, sadly. Okay, it's this materia, mundane. These are things that are all very heavy, earthly. However, spiritual, ethereal makes connections of energy that may not be present on a very physical, mundane level. However, it is those connections and those networks that actually bring prosperity. And if it clicked for any of you, good on you. I think those are all the words I can give them those. Yeah. He spoke about sort of, okay, this is very cool and quite cathartic to Cain and Abel, and and the two brothers. Cain, Cain killed his brother Abel, and he kind of goes into like what Cain means. So the name Cain means he's the acquirer. He's like the guy who like takes stuff, sort of like Cain telling Abel, you will own nothing and I'll own everything. Which, if you got that reference, good on you. And I got the sense that after he killed off Abel, he was punished. And that was quite cathartic for me to read. Why? Why was he punished? Because after he killed off, in order to own, what did he own? Okay, he owns all the land. But then, Rabbi Lapin says land is meant to like, this has two purposes: to grow stuff and to build stuff. But if there's nobody else, what are you building stuff for? And if he gives this example, I don't know whether this was in the book or whether it was in his interview, but he says if you're the last person on earth, you may say, yes, I own everything. But you have nobody to do your shit for you. Like, your laundry will be undone. Forget laundry. There's no food. You have to grow your own food. You have to cook your own food. Like, you've been living a really crappy life. And life really, like, comes in and gets enriched through that connection, which gets the second commandment. Gee, wow, 14 minutes in. I'm only on the second commandment. Extend the network of your connectedness to many people. And this is a fantastic one. And he goes into so much depth in this one. I will only gloss over it very, very briefly. He even speaks about, and I think he really helped me to understand more about the, in the, I don't know if Jewish people have the 10 Commandments. Maybe they do. Moses was Jewish, right? Oh yeah, I guess everybody before Jesus was Jewish. What am I thinking? Anyway, so the 10 Commandments. the 10 commandments that I follow, and the, thou shalt honor your father and mother. And he goes into much more depth and detail about that in this rule. No spoilers. Read it. Really. Read this book. Read this book, practice it, frame it. Rule number 3, or third commandment. Get to know yourself as others see you. This was a hard one. This is one I'm going to have to go back and really mull over. Because it was a matter of not just knowing yourself, because I may know how I am, or I may think I know how I am. However, other people, and again, it's like a commandment that builds on another, because this is number 3, and the second one was extend the network of your connectedness, and that connectedness one also is about, like, if you can hire somebody to do a job that you're not so stellar at, do that, because that will it's much better to do that than try to do everything yourself, sort of like Cain. But this and in that sort of network and that connection, and getting to know yourself as other people see you is something that you can actually do when you are in that network and in that connection. And I feel like a lot of us have lost that over these last 2 years. Yeah. But yeah, so I think that was another really good one. The fourth one, do not pursue perfection. In here, I wrote down a quote, like this is his direct quote. Neither neglect the imperfect, nor expend yourself on futile pursuits of perfection while failing to make the most of less perfect circumstances. I'm going to say that again. Neither neglect the imperfect. Take care of the small things. If you have something that's broken and it needs to be handled, do it. So don't neglect the imperfect. Nor expend yourself on futile pursuits of perfection. So you've already got 95%. There's nothing further that you can do to make it better. And you're neglecting all the other things that you could have taken advantage of, right? So nor expend yourself on futile pursuits of perfection while failing to make the most of less perfect circumstances. I think that was really great, because, and I must say, this one, it meant a lot to me personally, because I will tend to, like, pursue perfection. Like I stalled on making this video also for so long, because I was like, well, you know what? No, I need to get that, I need to, like, act on it first. I need to do this one. But then I was like, wait. You know what? No, just freaking do it, okay? Don't don't just stall. Like, just do it. And the fifth one, lead consistently and constantly. And in this one, he really talks about, and I really enjoy words and understanding what words mean and what words are all about, because that's I think, if you like, what I like to do is, whenever I have, like, a new word that, like, comes my way, I will put it, like, in Google Translate, and I'll go down to all the roots of everything, where it came from, and then I take the root word and I dig through that too. So I love that. And what he brought to my attention, really, my big aha moment in this one, was the fact that a leader, yes, okay, a leader, the word is a noun, yeah, I get it, don't dock me on grammar, but a leader, it's a verb, it's a doing thing, yeah, it's not, and it's, a leader comes into being by doing. It's not a title, it's not a a state of being, so to speak. It's in doing that action, that leads, that guides, that coaches, that mentors. That's how you become a leader. So yeah, that's the aha moment I had from that. Number 6, this one was just brilliant. Constantly change the changeable while steadfastly clinging to the unchangeable. And he really spoke about that Star of David in this one, of sort of how it's that, it's like two perfectly equilateral triangles upside down, right? Straight and up, yeah. And it's like there's a lot of like sacred geometry to that. However, what I found really cool about this, and he also compares it with the swastika and how that one is like a outward going. I'm not sure I agree fully with his view of the swastika, because as an Indian, like, I've seen the swastika used in very sacred contexts during Diwali time. The Hindu community will do that, and it has spiritual sacred meanings and significance in that community, in my culture. And I feel like Hitler really bastardized, pardon my French, but he really bastardized the swastika symbol, because it was not supposed to be a bad thing. And so what then Father Lapin, I was going to say, what Rabbi Lapin says about the how it kind of goes off like that versus the wholeness and the completion factor. I'm not completely 100% on board with that. However, what I do completely agree with him on was this bit about constantly change the changeable while steadfastly clinging to the unchangeable. This is something that even Jung, C.G. Jung, Carl Jung, my favorite depth psychologist of all time, even he in his Jung has said in his autobiography or his memoir or something, that he was able to be successful and to like explore so much and do so much because like at the root of it, like, he had his, and he had an affair too, but I'll leave that aside. He had a wife and a stable home and house life, and like he had many children. I don't know, 3 or 6 children or something. Anyways, I know I say many children, but I have 3 children. They feel like many sometimes. but no, Carl Jung had many children, but a very, very stable family life, and that's what helped him to like, go forth and be, because that base of his was very stable. One very important tip he makes, Rabbi Lapin makes in this 6th commandment, is also this notion of like heart attacks happen most often in the morning, and especially on Monday morning, because it's that like leap, from like rest to like stress state. And how to build in a portion of your morning, like don't start your day with craziness, like just start slow. And I thought that also really jived with the with what I've learned from the monks in Western Australia. Some of you know I've gone there thrice to the Buddhist monastery, and I've spent 3 separate instances of like, there are 9-day retreats, silent retreats, and I've done 3 of those there. Luckily, before 2020, which was awesome, because like now God knows how things are going over there. But I felt like, because even in that, like in why did I bring up the 9-day retreat? In the retreat, you have a bit of a like a routine. You wake up in the morning, and then you start off meditating. You always do that, and you have this space to the day that builds and then wanes. And I think he brings up some of that in the 6th commandment. Another really interesting and very, very pertinent thing that he talks about in the 6th commandment is about family and stability, and also how that is getting undermined. He does bring that up a little bit in his interview as well, and he says, um, I mean, he says, "Gee, if I want to be dark about it, why would somebody like deliberately try to undermine the family system?" Well, because if you have your family and you have the stability of your family, you're going to lean much less on the government versus not. And just look at us now. Like, I mean, okay, and I think I may have mentioned this in another video, but if you are a single woman or a single mom, you can get more subsidy from the government than if you are married to your, like, equally making sort of person, partner. And like, what does that actually do to the family system? And I think so. A lot of what he said, what Rabbi Lapin said, and even what Dr. Warren Farrell says in his book The Boy Crisis, a lot of it jives together with also what I'm seeing, like the fragmentation of American society, and honestly the fragmentation of the family system that has kind of been occurring since the late 60s, I would say. And I would say the technology that really made this happen was the birth control pill. And I don't know, I think maybe that was like a deliberately insidious, eugenically motivated substance. Because in doing that, what they also managed to do was vastly expand the wealth gap in this country, go off the sound money standard, yeah, and so many things. And this has been like a almost 50-year Shemitah kind of thing also coming. Yeah. Commandment number 7: learn to foretell the future. This one was fantastic. And okay, the trend analyzer, slightly, finance geek in me really enjoyed this, or macro econ, I should say, macro international finance geek in me really enjoyed this bit because, yes, he talks about sort of how, if you can know the trend, if you can, and it's simple, really. I mean, it's not simple, but it's one of those things where if you know what you're doing, it's easy. That cliche, right? But if you're watching and you're observing and you've been reading about history and then you see the science, you're like, oh, this is gonna happen. And that, and also not just learn to foretell the future, but knowing those kind of trends. And he actually does talk a lot about like financial trends in this chapter, or highly recommended. You must read it. The 8th commandment: know your money. Again, a quote from his book. What is money? Money is a quantifiable analog for your life force, an aggregation of time, skills, experience, persistence, and relationships. Yes, money is a quantifiable analog for your life force. Just think about that. Like, I always thought of money as like, money is a store of energy, really. Like the energy you've spent doing whatever, it's a store, that store value sort of concept. But he took it so much further in saying that it's an aggregation of your time, your skills, your experience, your persistence, and your relationships. Because guess what? Any of you who have split up, that the relationships, 50% of your wealth is gone if you didn't also, handle that aspect. Just saying. I hope that it didn't hit anybody below the belt. Not my intention. I get cheeky sometimes. Okay. Number 9. Act rich, but not in the act rich as in the BS fake it till you make it, wear designer shit that you can't wear. No, that's not what he means. He means give away 10% of your after-tax income. Oh, shit. My God, I'm doing something. What? Oh. Okay, never mind. give away 10% of your after-tax income. And he really, he really goes into the logic behind that, and why. And it's not just willy-nilly giving away either. Like his modes of giving away are actually, what he talks about is actually very strategic. And if you also read the other book that I reviewed, I think I spoke about last week, this book was Our Crowd, the famous or something Jewish families of New York. That book, it's a great book. But in that book, sort of that guy, Otto Kahn, and the opera, the opera house or something. Anyways, this guy, he kind of went into, he did a lot of philanthropy, but in the opera house, and it also brought him so much prosperity. But he kind of did it, he did it very strategically, very anonymously. Like his name was never like really associated with his buildings or his like whatever stuff. And yeah, and this chapter, in conjunction with that book, Our Crowd, it really, if you have, well, not even if you have made and now you want to give, no, it's like an ongoing thing. It really teaches you how to give strategically, yet properly, in a way that will actually even, again, it's not meant to serve you back again, but weirdly, it does. I can't explain it, but it does. Number 10, 10th commandment was absolutely like gold, pure gold. The 10th commandment was never retire. Preserve the spirit of staying useful and in service of others. Amen to that. Preserve the spirit of staying useful and in service of others. That was pure gold. Because, and he really talks about it in terms of like never retiring, meaning also like, not even doing like volunteer work, but actually like being on the payroll. Because the thing is, if you're not on a payroll, you don't know if you're in service of or not in service of, whether your energy and your work is completely pointless or whether it has some purpose, right? So that was really, I mean, I've always had this thing of, I want to work till I die. I don't want to ever stop working. I want to work till I die. I've always been of that view. I'm not one of those people who say like, when I get this much money, I do believe, by the way, in J.L. Collins's book, in The Simple Path to Wealth, he talks about a concept of FU money, which means you're completely financially independent. Nevertheless, I still think that that you should always keep working. And that's kind of why I began to do my doctoral in psychology, because I figured, will I like want to be working in finance, churning spreadsheets my whole life? And that was like a big hell no. But could I be a therapist? Would I want to be a psychologist? Would I want to serve in that capacity? Can I see myself doing that when I'm 70, when I'm 80, when I'm 90, when I'm old? Like, can I see myself sitting in a chair and letting people in deep suffering talk to me? Yeah, I can see myself doing that. I can see myself like going to prisons and listening to people just say, what made them do what they needed, what they not needed, what they did, and just be that vessel. I can see myself doing that till I die, and that's why I wanted to become a psychologist after being a finance person. My family, my birth family, most of the guys are bankers or auditors or in the finance industry, and most of the women have been teachers, and I always felt that I would make a really crappy teacher. So I never wanted to be a teacher, even though I think every woman, my God, every woman in my family is a teacher. well, except my mother, who worked for the IRS. And no. One of my cousins actually is a principal too now of a school. Oh God, I could not do that. My God, like I just can't. No, because look, like I'll say things like this. I'll say shit, and then I'll get fired. But so yeah, no. But nevertheless, why did I bring this up? Yeah, the whole idea of, what that bit really taught me was, yeah, okay, it's not just about even, it's not just even about, oh, I want to work till I die, but it's, if you are also, like getting paid, whatever it is, you can go ahead and donate the whole thing, it doesn't matter. But if you are doing that, then you understand, like, even, if you're providing therapy, if you're a teacher, whatever it is, right, that you're doing till you end, whether you're doing it in a way that's actually adding value, like the money you earn is that measure of that. So yeah, it's an absolutely brilliant book. I really love it. I cannot speak highly enough about this book. And yeah, definitely read it. I think I'll put the link to that interview that he did with Rachel, and I forgot the boy's name, but yeah, I'll put a video link, yeah, YouTube link to that too. And if you've been listening all this time, almost like 40 minutes almost, thank you for your time. And yeah, let me know if there's any other book you'd like me to read and share my thoughts on. And take care. Have an awesome day. Bye.